having a film program was George's dream, and I helped George do that. We did it together, but he said to me, there's room for your dream inside of my dream.
Welcome to the Dream Chasers podcast. I am your host, Samantha Ainsworth, and with me I have I say this all the time, but like, honest to God, so there are certain people in Pittsburgh film that everybody knows, and PJ Gaynard is one of those people. Did I say it right? You
did. That's me. That's me. Yes, I'm happy to be here.
I've heard so many variations. Gaynard is the one I hear the most often. I'm like, no, I swear I heard him say Gaynard at one point. So not Nard.
It's fine. It's the family curse. I have that. This is my name, and
is it Gaynard or Gaynard?
I don't know. It's whatever.
It's your name.
It's my name, and my wife took it, which is a profound description of her love. It really is.
There's been a couple people where they've married into names. I'm like, you chose that. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's great.
We could have gone with. We thought about changing both of our names to just be like PJ and Cindy Black.
We did the same thing. We thought about. We ended up obviously we hyphenated. The legal name. We ended up hyphenating, but both of us hyphenated.
Ah.
So, but we talked about that. He kept joking about wanting to be like Garofalo.
Oh.
Well, we had these. So I had this friend in Seattle who, when they got married, they changed their last name to Asaurus. So they were both like dinosaurs. So it was Tracy-osaurus and was it Sethosaurus or something. So yeah, they changed their last name.
That's
to
awesome.
Asaurus.
They're way cooler than us.
I know. Anyway, so PJ's here.
Hi.
You were high on my list of people to ask. Actually, God, I asked you a while ago, and then we just haven't been able to.
I'm so happy to be here.
And look, we color coordinated as if we planned it. It's really funny.
Yeah.
I just feel like that means that we're on the same wavelength. So I'm going to read his bio because I can. No, actually, I'm not. I'm a liar. I'm going to save the bio for later because I have to read the damn poem.
Well, if you read your poem, then I get to read my statement.
Oh, yes, because he has a statement. We started a little bit late today, so he can read a statement. So, and one of these days, after we've been doing this for a couple of years, I can stop telling people why. So the whole inspiration behind the podcast is actually this poem. So I was in the shower, which is where all my good ideas come, and I remembered this poem, and I screamed it across the house, and Bruce was like, Langston Hughes, what are you talking about? So this poem is the decider of said podcast. Harlem by Langston Hughes. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? Isn't that beautiful? So PJ Gaynard, man of Pittsburgh film and all things that entails, and we'll read that later. When you think of dream chasing, what does that mean to you?
Ooh.
Not catching,
dream chasing. Yes, I have a list of dreams.
Yeah.
I have I keep it with me next to my bed.
You sent me the list.
I sent you a list, and I brought it today, and my wife said, you're taking that from next to the bed. And I said, yeah, well, I need to, look, your dreams are allowed to change. They're allowed to grow. And my list had some pencil on it, and some of them aren't specific enough, so I need to revise it anyway. So today, before the end of the night, it needs to end up back next to my bed. Now, for a long time, I want you to know I'm a complete hypocrite. For a long time, I told people to do this, but I hadn't done it myself, and that's bullshit. That's not cool, yo. You tell people to do something, you haven't done it. So I finally got around to it because I wanted to take a picture of my bed, and the fact that it was there, and you can't do that.
It was not there.
So I put the list up, and I try to work on the list, some aspect of the list every day, even if it's just for a minute, even if it's just for 30 seconds, even if it's just, sometimes I'll just puke out a message and send it to somebody knowing that really not perfect, but I need to make some progress.
Done is better than perfect.
Yes, done is better than perfect. And I am not perfect, and I am not done.
I'm
That's
working
for sure.
on it. I'm slowly getting there.
Oh, my goodness.
You said that, I think we do this, right? But you said that you're a hypocrite about like telling people to do things that you didn't do them.
Yeah.
But there's something about asking someone else to do a thing or reminding someone else that they're allowed to do a thing that makes you go, oh, right, I should remember. It's like one of the reasons like coaching makes you a better at whatever you do.
Yes. And when I started teaching, that made me better.
Yeah.
That made me better because, I started teaching sort of in an odd way. I had gotten my undergrad in film from RIT in Rochester, New York, and I had made my way out to Los Angeles. My wife and we moved to LA together. We were already married. And I had my undergrad, and then I was working in film, and after a while, I lost some friends. And when I lost the friend, it was a miscommunication, but, I lost that friend. And they said, there's something wrong with you. I don't know what it is, but there's something wrong with you. And you better work on it. We're done. And I said, I didn't totally agree with their reasoning, but I accepted their assessment. And I said, all right, well, what am I going to do? And I ended up going back to school and getting a master's degree in humanistic studies and humanities. Yeah. And they weren't totally wrong. There was something wrong with me. I was frustrated, and part of my frustration may have been lack of education. In humanities or humanistic studies, we studied like things like use of space, use of place, age categories. It wasn't something that you could directly say, well, this is going to make you a better filmmaker, but obviously it's good. All the things that we learned have made me a better filmmaker.
Well, anything that makes you a better human makes you a better filmmaker.
Yes, especially because the filmmakers are studiers of the human condition. We know that, right? So to try to put into place or show the thing that has no name, like the interaction, the moment, that has no name, but that's a thing. That's a real thing, right? So after I got the master's degree, my friend Mike said, well, why don't you come over and teach at New York Film Academy in Los Angeles? So just come in, and it's a guest teaching thing. And the students are Masters of Cinematography students, and they'll make you a free thing. Whatever you can make in 7 or 8 hours. They'll have a red camera, and they'll have equipment, and they'll shoot it for you. And you just tell them what to do and direct. And then you'll get paid. And
to have them do your thing. There you go.
I was like, hell yeah, all right. So I did that, and that was my first foray into teaching, but I realized that, you got to show up, and you got to, you better know what you're talking about because they're going to ask questions. And my friend Jeff, who was teaching at the time, he was really big about saying, you better research everything you say before you say it to them. It can't be hearsay when the students are sitting there trying to learn. Right. You got to know. Yeah. And so I learned a lot.
That's amazing. I mean, but just that act of, okay, in order to be able to explain it to someone else, I have to be able to know inside and out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And you also mentioned, which I am a huge fan of doing something every day towards your dreams. I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt that said you have to do 3 things a day. I think.
I'm not reaching her.
It's been so long. It's been so long since I remember reading that. Since I saw Eleanor Roosevelt.
Talk to her.
Yeah. I mean, we go way back, way back to before I was born. So, but there's supposed to be a thing, if you do 3 things a day towards your dreams, goals, whatever, you're unstoppable. Some days I'm not so good. Some days I don't get 1, but some days I do 10. It balances.
I get some aspect of 1 nearly every day.
That's amazing.
It's a very tiny aspect.
It's okay.
And I'll tell you, there are people out there that are angry at me because I'm not done with the part that involves them. But I'm working on it. Never giving up.
You have a lot of... Yeah. Your iron is in a lot of fires. The fact that we managed to find a time today is amazing. So, because hold on, where'd your bio go?
You want to do the bio?
I want to do your bio.
Okay.
Just because it's all fancy and you went through all the trouble of writing it for me. I know, it's so good. a multi-talented, award-winning storyteller with over 25 years of experience.
28.
Is it 28 now?
Yep.
Oh my gosh. As a producer, director, writer, director of photography, and editor, he has a BFA in film, video, and animation from Rochester Institute of Technology. I'm so glad I read it because I was going to ask what RIT is. And an MA in Humanities/Humanitic Studies in Cal State Northridge. Recently, his work has included a strong bent towards community filmmaking. You can learn more about PJ Gaynard at goatmilkfudgeproductions.com. And then he's on IMDb, like all the cool, fun kids. So I love our origin story because I'd heard of you before I'd ever met you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I think we were Facebook friends before we ever actually met. And you had posted my headshot on your board and you had put like a little thought bubble. We had not officially met yet. So I must have like auditioned for the CCAC guys or somehow you had my headshot. I'm not sure. And you put like little thought bubbles and you had posted a photo of my face and a thought bubble on your whiteboard. And I was like, well, yeah, I would say something like that.
Oh, yeah. I was making you say things that you didn't say.
But I didn't say.
Not at all. But I was
like,
making you say them.
I can see me say that. And it was funny because I was like, does he have why am I on his whiteboard? And so when I did come in audition, people recognized me.
Yeah.
On your whiteboard. I just thought that was really funny. And I remember like I saw that and I can't remember, I asked one of our mutual friends, I'm like, is that weird that he has he's like, no, it's just PJ. Sounds like something I would do. Yeah, okay, so that's fine. One of the things that I find so fascinating about you is I feel like you are all the things I'm constantly accused of being.
Oh goodness, I hope.
It's not necessarily bad. No, this is not a bad thing. But like I'm always accused of doing all the things and trying to be in charge of all the things. And I'm accused of that all the time. I'm like, but PJ actually does. You have such the whole community filmmaker thing that you mentioned. You have such an energy and you have such a drive and you have such a supportive nature just in who you are as a person that when Camila left the 48. So Camila used to run the 48-hour film festival. And then when she left, they needed to find somebody else. And everybody I know was like, PJ. Everybody I know was like, PJ needs to do. I mean, like that was my first thought because you were already doing that sort of cheerleader capacity, organizing people, getting people together, getting people excited about working together. It felt like a perfect fit for you. I worry about you sometimes.
Well, first of all, I want to not to put down Camila. I call Camila the grand operator.
Yeah.
Right. When Camila started doing the 48, it was her and Nina.
Yeah.
And then Camila went on her own and did it for quite a long time. And then Camila handed it off to Lance Parkin and Ruthie Draper.
Right.
And Lance and Ruthie had it for a couple years.
Right.
And they did the best they could, and it was cool. And then I took it over.
Okay.
And the year that I took it over was 2020, and there was nothing going on.
Nothing. It was fine.
Problem. 2020.
Easy peasy.
In a way, it was great for me because it was sort of like I had to take baby steps. Because we couldn't meet in person.
Yeah.
It's October 2020, and we're trying to do the 48, and little groups of people are meeting. But we did all of our events online, and we never really met, and we did our screenings online. And so I got to start small and sort of rebuild it after Lance and Ruthie had sort of left.
Yeah.
So it was...
I forgot about Lance and Ruthie.
Yeah.
My
but
apologies to Lance and Ruthie.
And their events were really great.
Mm-hmm.
So
I don't. Maybe I just wasn't involved in those years because I definitely was involved in Camila years. And
Lance and Ruthie were great. They did. It was visual, and of course they had Jeff Smee in their back pocket as well, helping, and they made a nice thing. You know?
It's a lot of. I don't think people realize how much work it is because I just see a little bit, like when I come and help you. I just see a tiny portion of what you do.
You're so helpful.
I try. I mean, like, I try. Like, don't make me watch the things, but I'll sit and I'll hand out tickets all day. I have a hard time sitting through things. It's nothing against anyone's thing. I just have a hard time sitting through things. But it's an insane amount of work. but one of the things that you specifically bring to the table is you're just like to your core enthusiasm for the medium, right? Like it is so obvious that you love short film, love indie film, but also that how much you love the filmmakers. That's so like, if there are people in that scene that you don't like, we don't know.
Well, the mantra that I have, and I say it before every event, I say it during planning, I say it after, I say it all the time, is make it about the filmmakers.
Yeah.
If you just make it about the filmmakers, it's easy. You win. Ultimately you win, like there's no secret sauce. Is that, like you can mess up real bad. But if everybody said, well, you made it about me, you did the best you could, you showed my movie, like you're okay.
Yeah.
So that's really what I'm trying to do all the time, is just sort of make it about them. Don't make it about me. There's plenty of me. There's plenty. But it's about them. Right. Give them the mic. Let them speak. They made the thing. Right. So that's what I'm trying to do is, so I have this list here of dreams. So I'm going to read you this list because one of the things that we're talking about here is on the list. So this is my life goals list. It says here, in process. It's okay to change your list. If you don't have a list, I encourage you to write a list.
Write a list.
My list is going to get revised today because some of these things are not specific enough to be checked off. And if they can't be checked off, it's good. It's better than nothing. But it would be really great when I could check it off. That would feel really, really good. So I want something on the list that I can check off. Okay. So, first thing, direct a feature film as good as The Benniker Gang, which is not perfect. The Benniker Gang is not a perfect film. The Benniker Gang is...
I don't know that.
It's a film from the mid-'80s about a group of kids. Andrew McCarthy is the oldest of them. Okay. And he's 18, but he's still at the orphanage working. And he has a secret life writing advice columns as Dear Lola, as an old woman. Basically, he was working when he was 15 in a newspaper, and the Dear Lola lady passed away, and he got the byline. It just kept going. They just didn't have her, but it was the same. And so he does the byline, but nobody knows it, which is probably all for the best, right? Because they wouldn't take the advice from an 18-year-old. Right. So, at any rate, him and these group of orphans, and he's an orphan too, they run away from the orphanage, and they form their own family. And they move to Missouri, which is what you do. And but they
going to hide,
yeah. But I think they shot the whole movie in New Jersey, like you do. So they move to Missouri and they hide and they try to form this family together, and it's a great family until they get found out, right? But that's the movie. It is not a perfect film, but that is my goal. Direct a feature as good as The Benniker Gang.
What is it about that film specifically that makes you go, that's my goal?
It's reasonable. It's absolutely attainable.
Okay.
And I love it. And I don't know why I love it. And my kids are angry at me because I make them watch it every year. I make my wife watch it every year. And they go, all right, we'll watch it once, Dad, once a year. But my wife and I are going to get remarried. And the first film she said is, are we going to watch The Benniker Gang? Because it's such a, it's a thing that we do. And so that's on my list. Make After the Fire, which is another feature film that I want to make, which I am absolutely behind on talking to Celine. Celine Phillips is sort of my muse, and she's going to be the star of the film, and her and I have been trading ideas back and forth. But it's based on something that happened to a friend of mine, where she came home at 1 o'clock in the morning. She had just moved into her apartment a couple weeks ahead of time, and in her car, she had an air conditioner and a lot of shoes. So she rounds the corner, and her entire apartment building is on fire. And everything is gone. Everything that she owns, everything is gone.
That just happened to a friend of mine a couple of years ago, too.
And then it's about the next 2 days of her life and what she does.
Oh, my gosh.
And it's sort of like how she decides to move on.
Yeah.
And Celine and I have been shoving ideas into this story. Another friend of mine had... my dad passed away. I had his ashes, and I distributed them all around the country, places that were important to him. My other friend, his mom's ashes got left in a storage facility in Los Angeles, and he was running out of money, and he was so nervous that he couldn't pay for the storage facility, and they were going to throw the stuff away, including his mom's ashes, which is not okay.
That's not okay.
You know, like the rest of the stuff, the couch, whatever, but the ashes cannot be left. So the ashes are definitely in that apartment.
Yeah.
They definitely got destroyed.
Yeah.
And so all these little stories I'm working on making after the fire. Make the double retro 48-hour film project, the double retro horror 48 happen. I can't tell you what that's about, but the double retro horror 48 will happen. Learn to play the theremin.
That's great.
I love the theremin, and you don't touch it, so I think I can learn how to play it. Hike the Pacific and Appalachian Trail with my family. Obviously, I can't do that until they're older. My kids are young. Go on a family vacation to a house that matches Veronica's painting. My daughter, Veronica, when she was 4-year-old, she painted a house that was on the beach, and she said she wants to go to that house, and we were supposed to go, but we couldn't go. We need to go. Dance with Veronica at her wedding. Get a doctorate in film. Which I want to do. Pitt has a doctoral program, which is it's more of a theoretical program, but they're open to making it more of a physical program that would be about community filmmaking and would involve actually shooting. They said they were open to it. I haven't moved forward on that process. I need to find and buy the studio space that I need. I rent a studio space right now. It's fine, but you can't drive a car into it because it's on the 3rd floor.
Right.
So I would like to buy a studio space that I could have. Write a crazy letter at least once a week and send it.
Is that something you do?
I wrote a crazy letter yesterday, and I got my 3rd judge for the 48. My 3 judges are Patty Bell, Reed Agnew, and Greg L. Edwards. Greg L. Edwards is a big-time dolly grip.
Was he the crazy letter?
He's a crazy letter I sent yesterday. I don't know Greg well, but I'm really excited to spend some time with him. I will spend some time with him. Help Cindy do one thing on her life goals list. Cindy's my wife. And I know that if I help her on her list, she'll help me on mine. Make Trick and Veronica's dreams matter and happen. That's on my list. It would be nice if I could articulate that better.
Yeah.
Cindy's list I've seen, but the kids, they don't have a list.
They don't have a list just yet.
I don't know if they can articulate it quite like that. Yeah, my daughter's 6. My son is 10.
Well, yeah, but they can. But they can still come up with something.
Yeah.
Like even if it's 1 or 2 things.
Yeah. Create meaningful artistic work of my own that affects me deeply. You can't really.
Right. You have to specify that one.
Yeah, you have to
that one's a
specify
little
that.
vague.
Build film culture in Pittsburgh. That is the 48.
That's
the
which
48.
you are.
But that's not the only way to do it.
No, but that's what.
Yeah.
But you're doing that.
I'm doing that. And then one last thing, I do have a production company that I love. I've worked for them some, but I want to work for them more because I believe in their mission, which is work at Fred Rogers Productions more. Because Fred Rogers Productions is the top of the pops. And they are one of the biggest production companies in Pittsburgh. Many people don't know that. They have the real Emmy.
Yeah.
And several of them. And for a long time, they kept the Emmys in their copier closet. Because they are the most humble people you will ever meet. They just care about the work. They really do. They just care about children and the work and doing good work. And that's what their absolute focus is. And look, personally, it's just me. But I think if you can be a little bit more like Fred Rogers, you're going to be okay.
Yeah.
So that's my current list. I might make some adjustments, but that's pretty much the list.
So what happens when you hit those?
Okay. Number 1, I will never hit everything on this list. But if I do...
Well, because the list is evolving.
The list is evolving. The list needs to keep... Now, there's one thing I should say about contentment, being content. I have no interest in contentment.
Oh, my God, me either. Thank God you said that.
I will never be content. I will never be perfectly happy. I have a friend, and she says to me, my friend Phelan, she's wonderful, she says to me, you're a conqueror. The moment you reach any goal, you don't even bask in it. You're just on to the next thing, on to the next thing.
Right?
Yeah. And she's like, why can't you just live in it for a second and just love the thing that you got? But that's me. I want to stay humble, maybe too humble, but I want to stay humble. And then I want to move forward. And I know there's no such thing as perfection. So it's okay, So, yeah. I don't know if that answers your question.
It kind of does. And it is. So, all right. So you gave me your list. All right, let's talk about some of your things here. Oh, come back. Because I printed out your bio, but I didn't. I don't need to talk about any of that.
Can I read you this thing that I keep on my wall?
Oh, yes. I want to hear the thing you keep on your wall.
Okay, so the way that I got this piece of paper was my roommate, Mark Wolkin, who at the time liked being known as Elmo, but doesn't anymore. My roommate in college had made this for some class, and then he put it on a bottle, and then he left it, and he moved, and he was gone. And then I found it, I ripped it off the bottle, and I have kept it ever since. So I've had it about 27, 28 years. It is not something that I wrote, but it is something I keep on my wall. I have like 2 pieces of paper on my wall. The other one I can't read right now. It's a Michael Kachek piece. So if you come over to my studio, you can see that one. It's behind my door in my office where nobody can see it. So you have to ask. But this one is also pretty much on that same wall. It's for me, but I'm going to read it to you for anybody who's a director out there. Every day that I'm not making a movie for me is a day lost. In that way, for me, making movies is like making love. When I'm making a film, it's my happiest moment. Though all of me is taken by it, though it consumes all of my time, thoughts, and energy, I also feel freer than I do at any other time. I feel in better health, even if I don't get any sleep. Everything I ordinarily enjoy in life, I enjoy more, because I am in a state of heightened perception. Everything I eat tastes better. Sex feels better. When I'm directing, that's when I'm most alive. It's my most viral moment. A special energy comes upon me, and I can do all the parts, participate in every aspect of the film, and am never tired. No matter how late it is when we stop shooting at night, I can hardly wait for the next day.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I forget who said that. It's a famous director.
So, what is it about it? Like, what draws you to it? Like, what? At some point, young PJ was like, I want to do movies. So, what was it that drove you to that in the first place? Do you remember?
I found filmmaking late.
Okay.
And I found filmmaking in college.
I don't consider that late.
Oh, all of my friends in college had found it in like elementary school. But when I was a kid, I was working for my dad at his plumbing business, and I wasn't really thinking about filmmaking, and we didn't have access to a camera. And, I liked stories, but I wasn't thinking about it like that. So I found filmmaking in college, and I found it by helping on other people's movies. But I also was writing at the time. I was doing a lot of poetry, and sometimes I felt like the written word wasn't getting me all the way there.
Okay.
And obviously, the written word can get you all the way there if you're the right person writing it. But I've quoted Mark Twain before when he said, "The words are only painted fire. The look is the fire itself." So I want the look. I want the moment.
Right.
I want those things that can't be defined. And then that's what I want to talk about. So that's my interest. I like quirky movies. I like small movies. I like moments that you can live in.
Yeah.
But I like fantastical things too.
Yeah.
So those are the things that interest me.
So what does your perfect day on set look like for you?
Oh,
like if everything lines up exactly the way you want it to, what does that look like for you?
So we are going to unpackage.
Oh.
We're going to take apart this sentence that you have given us.
Yes.
Because perfection
doesn't exist. I know.
Is an unattainable goal. And yet, if you consider, and this is a famous philosopher, one of the original philosophers, talks about tableness, right?
Okay.
The perfect table. You can imagine the perfect table. Tell me about your perfect table. What does it look like?
Mine?
Yes.
Oh God, it would be a dark wood, and it would probably be about 10 feet long and expandable so that there's always room for more at the table.
Square or round?
Definitely rectangle. I'm a rectangle table kind of person, I would say. Yeah, I like the idea of it being constantly able to be bigger, to include more.
That table does not exist.
Right.
It is.
Yet.
It can never truly exist, right? Because perfection is unattainable. So the perfect table can only be a form. It can be an ideal, something that you try to attain. So you can get the wood,
Right.
you can get like a furniture dude, and you can try and explain it to them, and they can try and make that table. There will be some imperfection.
Right.
They may or may not hit the mark pretty darn close. And that's okay. And you come to terms with that. In every movie, it's like that with every creative endeavor. You're like, oh, there's the thing that I wanted to make, and then there's the thing that we made, and it's cool. It's not exactly the same, but that's okay.
Right.
I like it for what it is. I like the imperfections in it, right?
Okay.
And so I think you have to try to attain the perfect table. Try to get it, knowing that you can never get it, and that's okay. But you still have to try for it. And in that, recognize that there is no perfection, there is only uniqueness. And uniqueness is something I really champion.
Okay.
That unique moment, that unique day, the day that is like no other day, the person that is like no other person. There is no perfect snowflake, but there is a unique snowflake, that the one that I hold now and I look at, I will never see again. And that's okay. That works for me.
Yeah.
So the perfect day, the perfect week, the perfect month, the perfect life, I will try and I will fail. But it is in my trying that I derive meaning, and I can live in that. So I don't know that there's a perfect day on set, but there is a unique day where you say, we shot everything we wanted and more. We found things we didn't know were there, and those things were amazing and wonderful. And the people I was with were so great, and we made so much money. Yeah, we provided for our family.
Yeah.
And everybody walked away just feeling like cowboys. You know, like, I can't believe we're living this life and we're doing this, and we were somewhere nobody gets to be, doing things nobody gets to do. And we got it. Today we got it. And then hopefully in the edit later, you got it, right? Because anything, especially with directing, you know, it doesn't, you know, it felt great on the day, and then you look at the edit and you're like,
I feel that way about all my performances. I'm like, oh, it felt so good at the time. Oh, man. That reminds, I have a thing on my wall that says, if you shoot for the moon and miss, you're still among the stars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what that makes me think of. Is like, shoot for the moon. Like, because like that's the thing. Like, if your goal, your perfection is here, you have to shoot for there. Because if all you do is shoot for there, you'll probably just come up a little bit short.
Well, I've been saying something recently to myself, and it's sort of silly, and it's just a little mantra that I say to myself, which is, failure is success. Failure is success. Mm-hmm. Like, just fail. Just fail. Just fail. Failure is success. Because every time, failure requires effort and requires trying. And even when you fail a little less.
Fell forward.
Yeah, and you're like, all right, well, that was not the best ever, but, you know, it was better than nothing.
Yeah.
And I got to keep trying, you know, and that's something that I do.
I love when I'm the worst in a room. You know what I mean? Like, I love when I find myself. But
often worse.
No, but listen, but I love that, because like, if you constantly find yourself in rooms where you're the best one, you're never going to grow. Right? Like, you're never going to get better if you are always the best one in a room.
I think it's okay to be the best occasionally. It feels good. Occasionally, it's okay to feel good.
No, I mean, yeah, but if what you're trying to do is move forward,
yeah,
you know, like, I like not being the best in a room. Like, I love having to look at someone and go, oh shit, you make me bring my A game.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Because I feel like if you're constantly the best in a room, that's where complacency comes in. It's like, well, I could just phone this in because.
Oh yeah, but you can't. Yeah.
I hate that. I hate the notion of phoning things in. I'm taking this acting class right now. I'm using the word in quotes because the teacher doesn't call it an acting class. He calls it a conditioning class, because I know how to create characters. I know how to analyze the script. I can analyze the script like a beast. Do you want me to analyze this line and tell you like the 17 different things it could possibly mean? I can do that for you. I'm not so good at cinematic, right? Because I come from theater. So I'm used to being
super
huge,
big. Yeah.
so big. And so like, and because I'm trying to level up, I need to learn how to take all that. So frequently in class, I just feel like I suck at all of this.
I'm a big Muppet. Yeah,
I'm a big old Muppet.
Yeah.
My face is too big. It moves too much. My hands move too much. I do too much shit. I'm too extraneous. But it's forcing me to zero in and to really focus all of this energy that I have, because I have to. Because otherwise, I just flail. I'm just a hot mess. I just flail all over the place. But I like the fact that I go to this space every week and I'm not the best. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like yesterday, I didn't suck. Last week, I sucked. Last week was really bad. He was just like, oh, yeah, you did that. That's the thing you did. I'm like, I know, it wasn't good. But being bad forces you to go, okay, if this is what not good looks like, what does good look like? Forces you to sort of like pull that all in.
Well, I'm rarely happy with my work.
I'm never happy with my work.
I'm rarely happy. And it doesn't matter what the work is. I'm just rarely happy. And I'm always on myself. I'm really like, well, you could have done that a little better.
Yeah.
And they certainly must have known that you could have made a better effort. But that's where I say failure is success. Failure is success.
You did it. You got up and you did the thing.
Yeah.
And you'd said that you're never content.
Never.
I'm much the same.
Never.
And it's funny because it makes people angry at you, because they think, I don't know if you get this. I get this. Like if I state, oh, I did this thing, I could have done it better. Like, how can I fix it? And if I say that to people, they're, I get the whole, well, you're making the rest of us look bad bullshit, which I'm sure all the time. Yesterday someone said that to me. But like, people think that what you expect of yourself is what you expect of them.
Well, so I do think that the end of every system is contemplation, right?
Okay.
No matter what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
You're in a relationship, that relationship, it begins, there's a middle, maybe there's an end to that relationship, no matter what it is. And then you say, well, that's done. No. It's not done. It's done when you have sat and thought about it.
Yeah.
And really had a chance to say, like, oh, this worked for me and this didn't. This is how I'm going to change. Or this is what, like I can't accept or whatever. That contemplation is part of every process. You get a job, the job ends, contemplation.
Yeah.
No matter how big or small that process is or that series of activities are, what do they say? Like, and Bob's your uncle, right?
Right.
And Fanny's your aunt. And then you think about it. That's the part they don't tell you, right? So, but I do think that's the end of everything. Now, that doesn't mean that it's for everybody, right? And everybody doesn't have to know that I'm unhappy, but I have to know that I need to think about what happened. And we know in our modern era, with phones and so many shiny things, there's always stimuli. It's difficult sometimes to slow down and just contemplate. And different people do it in different ways.
Right.
There's nothing right or wrong with any of those. Some people use religion to do it. They have a conversation with God. Some people use meditation and they just try to get centered and clear. Yeah. And that's all cool. That's not really how I do it, but I'm not sad about any of those ways. I think any way that you do that is a good thing.
This is actually the way I'm doing it.
This counts.
No. It very much is, because with the whole, I had the soap company for 12 years, and because of all the legal nonsense, that's disintegrating, and unfortunately, it's not a fast disintegration just by nature of what it is. I mean, we're on month 8, something like that. Might be going into 9. Of this constant reminder that this thing that I built has failed. So it's like, it's this constant like barrage of, oh, here's another thing that you did wrong. Oh, here's another, oh, you were supposed to have done this. Here's another thing that you screwed up. So it's a constant thing. And so when it started happening, so I started the podcast pretty soon after that started, because I was like, I need to work this out. I need to work out, like, if I have a dream, or if the realization that it wasn't my dream, but somehow I got like sucked into this weird like vortex. What does that mean for me now? What does it mean for the achievements that I made, but also what does it mean for me moving forward? And so having these conversations for me has been very therapeutic, in terms of it's okay that dreams that are chased are not necessarily achieved.
Well, right. Well, I also think that it's okay for things to end.
Yeah.
And things sometimes end messy. You know, and you and I talked about this about like movies, right?
Yeah.
Like there's the movie, and then there's the story of how the movie got made.
Right.
Which sometimes is a messy story, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's, you know, doing stuff sometimes is messy.
Yeah.
It just is. And I hate it if feelings get hurt along the way. I don't want that. But whatever it takes you to do your thing, you did your thing. And, you know, if it's a messy end, I'm really sorry about that. Mm-hmm. But you got to find the positive part on that.
Yeah.
And then, just, you know, and be able to write down the things that, you know, what you learned in your contemplation. Mm-hmm. And then say, like, all right, well, that's what I learned. So now we're going to move on and do another thing.
And sometimes what you learn is, this isn't for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes the thing that you learn is like, okay, cool. I did this thing. I had not done this thing before. I know I will never want to do that thing again.
Well, I remember, you know, this is a much smaller thing than what you've had happen to you. But in high school, I took a special program for engineering. I've always planned to be an engineer because they were inventors. I went to college to be an engineer, and then I had a complete meltdown. It wasn't for me. It just didn't work. I wasn't good at math. Not that great, especially not at 8 a.m. for 2-hour calculus classes. And I just felt like I had wasted years of my life, which, you know, when you're 18 or 19, a couple years is a long time.
It's a huge percentage.
Yeah, and I just felt like, man, you really messed up. You really wasted that time. But what I've learned since then is that it wasn't wasted. It was spent.
Yeah.
You know, this is how I spent my time. I chose that. And that's okay. You know, I got to own the things that I do. Mm-hmm. You know, I might not like all the things that I do. And I'm human. I do things that sometimes I would say, that was a bad idea. You shouldn't have done that. But
we all do bad ideas.
But, you know, like I gotta own it. And then I just got to say, like, all right, well, it's part of me. And that part of me will help me later.
Yeah.
You know, whatever's part of me, you know, it's part of me, and that's it. And, you know, like, you just got to sort of take that. But no, it's not wasted.
No. Well, but everything that you've done, I mean, and I've lived 1,000 lives at this point, it feels like.
And it comes back. It helps you
everything
later.
that you've done gets you to the next thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, so as much as I beat myself up over the retail failings, I learned a lot from that. Ironically, one of the things I learned was film editing.
Yeah.
Because I edited all of our commercials.
Exactly.
So I got really good at that, which then made me really good at editing my self-tapes. So standing in front of a camera and doing that and having to like shove it into my program and do all the editing down to the frame, I can do all of that stuff.
And as a matter of fact, you said today that you were able to edit this program.
Yeah.
Because of that.
Because of the stuff I learned there.
So the people, all of you audience people who are like watching this right now, you're watching this because she had a soap company.
Yeah.
And so there's no waste. There's no waste.
It's a soap company that belly upped.
It ended. But
it ended.
You know, like I had an idea for a while. I had this dream about moving to California. And for a while I had really bad wanderlust. And I would just find myself driving west. I'd be like, oh, what are you doing? Where are you going? Dude, turn around.
Go home.
You gotta go home. And it was a really bad wanderlust, right? Needed to go west. I was born in San Diego, but I didn't know the place. Right. We moved when I was 2 or 3, back east of Pittsburgh, actually. And so eventually, you know, my wife and I, we moved to California. And I went to San Diego. And I saw San Diego, and I met people from San Diego, which I felt like I could have been their friend when they were a kid. I could have been better friends with them if I had lived here. But I lived that Cali life. And then it was okay that I said that was my dream, but I have other dreams. I'm allowed to have other dreams. Mm-hmm. And that dream is allowed to end. I still miss California. I miss all my friends. But I'm allowed to have other dreams and explore those too. Yeah. So you're allowed to have an end.
Yeah. Yeah.
Your list is allowed to change.
Your list is allowed to change. Well, I just know, here's where I get in trouble, right? So like the Capricorn in me.
I'm Capricorn too.
Yes.
Yeah, January
5th. I think this is one of the reasons we get along, because we understand each other. I feel like our brains are built in very similar ways. But when I start doing things, like in my brain, I'm like, I got to be the best at this. And I start like, I just blinders on, and this is what I'm doing now. And I sometimes forget that I'm not enjoying it very much. That happens, but I get so wrapped up in like, I like the processes, right? I like getting up, and I like doing this, and I like doing that, like doing this, and okay, I'm making the soaps today. Okay, I'm doing the ads today. Okay, I'm doing this today. I love marketing. And then next thing you know, it's 12 years later, and you're like, okay, I got sued for $500,000, but I wasn't having a good time anymore. So sometimes like you need, I need external stimulus to remind me that this isn't what I wanted.
Yeah, I think that's contemplation, right? Yeah. That's where you got to go like, all right, hold on.
Yeah.
What do I want?
Yeah. And as it's starting to wind down, and we're in the negotiation phase right now, the settlement negotiation phase is where we are right now. So we go into the settlement negotiation phase, and then after that comes like the bankruptcy phase. And so that's going to be another, God knows, 6 months. As this is all dissolving. But as this is all dissolving, so I have like all of that stuff that's dissolving. I'm also trying to, because I had to make a living. So I'm trying to build up this other thing at the same time. So like I'm doing this weird tilt all day of, okay, this is ending. Okay, but this is ending. I have to do all the things to end this, but this is building up.
Yeah.
But not getting so wrapped up in but I should be doing this. I should be doing this. I'm reminding myself that it's okay to do the thing that I want to do.
Yeah.
That's where I get in trouble. That's my Capricorn comes out. It's like, but if I'm doing the thing, I have to be the best at the thing. Doesn't matter that I like it or not. I have to be the best at the thing. Such a mess.
So I had this, I have mentors, I'm sure you have mentors.
Yeah.
So I got this job at CCAC. I helped create their film program.
Yeah.
And the reason I took the job was a couple reasons. But one of the reasons why is because there's this guy, George Jaber, who I had heard about, and I heard that he used to run 489. He was the president of 489 briefly. He was for like a year or two. He was the president. He did it. And I had heard about him, and people all said the same thing. You should meet George. George's a great guy. And then I met George, I get the job. Ooh, hold on one second.
He's got a little bit of a sickie. So a couple of weeks ago, I was supposed to actually do a project for PJ. And like 2 days before, I had to call him and go, I have COVID. I'm so sorry. So last night he called me. He's like, I don't have COVID, but I'm sick. Do you still want me to come? I'm like, yes. Come give me your germs. Since I had to bail on you. I felt so bad.
Okay, what was the last thing
George
I said?
Jaber.
So
everyone tells you had to meet him.
Everybody said that I had to meet George Jaber, and then I did. And I got the job at CCAC, and he became a mentor for me. I haven't talked to George in quite a while. And I don't think it's fair to say that he's a current mentor, only because I don't talk to him.
Right.
But I remember I met him, and I wrote on my Facebook, I met this guy, and I'm working for him. And I really think the world of him. And somebody I looked up to and was a mentor for me in Los Angeles said, George Jaber. And I said, yeah. And he goes, that's my mentor. said, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, you don't know this about me, but I lived in Pittsburgh for a while, and I went to South Campus, and I worked at that theater. And George taught me a lot. George was my mentor. So you think and I was like, what are you, like, that guy in LA is the whole reason I had the money to join IATSE 728, and he helped my career.
Yeah.
And he's a great guy. His name's Sean Bennett, and I love Sean. He's great. But we're all connected, right?
Right.
And then, so the thing George used to say to me is, he said, having a film program was George's dream, and I helped George do that. We did it together, but he said to me, there's room for your dream inside of my dream. There's room for your dream in there. And he meant that.
Yeah.
And he gave me a lot of freedom to do things. But I always remember that. There's room for your dream inside of my dream.
I love that.
Yeah. So I don't think that it has to be just one person's thing. You're like, oh, it's your thing, but that's not my thing.
Yeah.
It's like, no, there can be room for the thing that I see inside of your thing. There can be room. We can come together and work together for a while, and then we can separate and work separately, and that's okay too.
Yeah. I love that. So when you're going through and you're like, okay, I have these goals, I'm doing these goals, and I'm sure, like all of us, you have days where you just aren't feeling any of it. How do you motivate yourself to get through those days? Or do you?
I make lists. Make a lot of lists.
Yeah.
I have a lot of lists.
I have 3 books of lists. Over there, yeah.
So I'm constantly working on the list, not always succeeding, and I just try to create an environment that allows me to do the things that I want to do. And when I'm frustrated, I make a list. I look at the list. I say, like, well, what do you want? And ultimately, you're going to be offered all kinds of things in your life. And you're going to make mistakes. I have messed up so bad. I mean it. Everything you can do wrong, I've done it. And that's part of being me, And I look at my friends, and they took opportunities and turned out great for them. I love that about them. I have to make the best of the things that I'm offered, and I have to be honest with myself about what I want, because when you're not honest with yourself, when things go awry, you have to be able to say, like, well, I don't want that.
Yeah.
That's not what I want anyway, so let it go.
Yeah.
When I was teaching at CCAC, right towards the end, they said, well, you need to do all this stuff to get tenure. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, so you could stay here forever. And I said, does it come with more money? And they said, no. And I was like, I don't know, that's for me.
Yeah.
I said, I think I'm done.
It's okay. It's okay. Walk away.
Yeah. I just like, it's not for me, So, I don't know that, I make a lot of lists. That's how I get through my day.
Yeah.
Trying to know yourself and learn about yourself is an ever-changing process. And sometimes I'm behind the 8 ball. You can learn about yourself in a couple different ways. You can try to be out in the forefront, trying to learn, really watching. And I try to do that, but other times you're on the backside. Like, you do something and you go like, that's me? That could be real bad. You can find out something real bad about yourself. That's me?
Yeah.
So, I think that's happening back and forth all the time.
Yeah.
Like, when you're finding out about stuff. So, I don't know. That's how I try and motivate myself, is I make lists. I try to create environments that I can think in and succeed in. I probably have ADHD. It's not.
I'm learning that about myself. Like, the older I get, I'm like, oh no. Because there's all these, like, you see all these videos on TikTok where they're talking about ADHD. I'm like, oh yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, maybe. I don't know.
That might be.
I'm trying to learn about myself and just do what works for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was your favorite day? Do you have, like, just in general, what was your favorite day? Could be career, could be personal.
I don't know. I've had some good days. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, and the thing I'll say is that,
I didn't know if there was one that particularly struck.
well, two things about good days, right? Number one, Wayne Marshall is a guy I love. Wayne Marshall.
Okay.
He works as a rigging gaffer and a set lighting technician, and he's a real cowboy kind of guy. And he says, one aw shit ruins 100 attaboys.
Yes, it does. Oh God, it's so true.
You know, like, so it's so easy to think about the bad days.
Yeah.
And the good days are hard to come by. So I try to put up things to remind myself about the good days. And I think you really have to.
Yeah.
You have to put it up on your wall.
Yeah.
You have to put it up and say, like, that was a good day, because I'm going to forget. I'm going to think about the things I did wrong and the things that are being wrong that are done to me. Yeah. And I'm going to forget about, like, that day worked out. So I've had some really good days, you know. I mean, initially, you know, what popped into my mind is, you know, like the days that my kids were born. And it's as much my wife's effort as it is mine,
right.
You know, she worked really hard those days, but I think those days are real winners, you know. My wife and I are getting ready to renew our vows. It'll be our 6th wedding.
So you guys do it every time on your...
We got married on Leap Day.
Right.
So on Leap Day, we renew our vows. And you think it could lose power, but it's a real touching base, and it means something to me when I say those words, even if it, like, you know, on the way towards the day, we're really putting on a show. And, you know, when you're putting on a show, you're like, all right, I got to mount the video projector. We're going to show a movie. I need to get 30, 40 chairs in the room. We got to get the couch from the other room. We need to move the TV into the other room so that the kids can have a thing that they watch. Right. We got to get the food and put out all the tables and blah, 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 blah. You can imagine, like, not being focused on, like, all right, now you need to say the words to this woman who you love. And I am not always perfect to her. I'm hard on her, and she knows it. And, you know, we're married. We've been married now 20 years. We've been together since 2001. I'm imperfect. But I will find a way to say those words, and I will find a way to mean it. And she said, well, do you want to write our own vows? And I was like, I don't know. Like, we got so much going on. You know, Susie's going to help us get married. Susie's our next door neighbor, Susie and Chris. And I was like, well, Susie could just write it. She looked at me and was like, I think I want to write my own vows.
You're going to let Susie write your vows.
And she said, I was like, all right, I'll write something. I'll come up with one sentence or something. She said, you will do something better than that. And I will. But I do think that's, that you have to, I don't know, those are good days. Getting married was a good day. Getting married every time we've gotten married is a good day. I recently played back when Christine Mancini married us as clowns. We were clowns.
Right. I've seen those photos.
Yeah, and you think that it wouldn't mean anything, but actually what Christine wrote and what she said was informational about clowns, but also really from her heart, and wonderful. And you know, those days are good days. Those aren't the only good days, though. I made some when I lived in Los Angeles. It's different than Pittsburgh. In Pittsburgh, there are events regularly where filmmakers come together, and they're not happening quite as much as they were pre-COVID, but they are happening.
Right.
And I love those events. But in Los Angeles, those events don't happen as often. At least they weren't when I was there, around the group that I was with. The group was always fractured. We were always everywhere. Somebody was always working. Nobody was ever together. So I made these events called Fudge Fests, where I would premiere a short film that I made and then convince all my friends to premiere their new stuff. And the only way you could show something was if you were my friend. And all the music, when people were being let in, was bands that I knew, people that I knew. You had to be my friend. And then it created sort of an insular event, which was okay. You know, they were allowed to invite their entire crew and cast and everybody, so that it was like, I remember people would say those days, man, it's like we're all together. We're never all together, but we're all together today. We're all here. And so those events are really meaningful to me. And if you come to my studio, you'll see that I have those posters on my wall. The first thing you see when you come in are these two posters, and they're signed by everybody who was at Fudge Fest that day, which is so long ago. But those are a few days, but I have many days. You know, when I do the 48, those are big days that mean a lot to me. I don't look at them as much anymore, but the screenings that we had for CCAC when the students were screening their work, those were really meaningful to me because I knew how hard the students had worked. And sometimes they didn't know because they were in a process.
Right.
I was recently describing to somebody Plato's Cave. I don't know if you know Plato's Cave. Yeah. Oh, Plato's Cave is an awesome allegory. It's called the Allegory of the Cave. And I will tell it to you shittily, which is a whole other story. I'll explain in a minute. But Plato's Cave is this idea that there are two dudes sitting in these chairs watching shadows. And this is all they know. They have lived in these chairs their entire life. You can imagine what that's like. They sit in these chairs and they look at shadows on the wall. And that is the only life they know. These shadows. And they can talk to one another, but they can't see one another because their heads are bolted straight. All they see is shadows, shadows, shadows. Every day, day in and day out, shadows, shadows, shadows. And this is the life they know. Well, one day, one of the guys gets pulled from his chair. And he gets taken forcefully out towards the edge of the cave. And as he gets closer to the edge of the cave, he starts freaking out because he's never been outside of that chair, and he only knows that chair, and he only knows the shadows. And he's screaming, and he's trying to get out of the hands of the person. You don't know what you're talking about. This is crazy. He's trying to get back to his chair, but the person is demanding, and they throw him outside the cave into the actual light. And for the first time in his life, he sees the real world. He sees it for what it is. And it takes a while for his eyes to adjust, but he sees it. And he realizes this is the world. This is it. So what's he do? He goes back in the cave and he tries to get his friend. But his friend will not leave the chair. And this is the theory of education, is that I know something that you don't know, and I will try to teach it to you. And sometimes you may not be excited about learning it because part of the process is you don't know how it's going to end up. You don't know about what's outside. So along the way, you might buck a little bit and fight, but this is good for you, and you're going to see when the process is done that this is the real world. This is how it really is. And some people take it better than others, right? Right. And you just sort of have to, when you're the person trying to get them outside the cave, do it as gently as you can, but you got to try and teach them. Like, I'm going to get you outside this cave, and you're going to see. You can see this is how it is. So that's a theory of education. That's Plato's Cave. And I think it's really important. Allegory. The shittily comment. I had this person that I really looked up to. She's famous among some circles. Her name is Leslie Hall.
Okay.
And she had a group called Leslie and the Lies. She liked collecting gem sweaters. She's just like one of the most creative people in the world. And so she had all these gem sweaters that she got at Goodwill, and then she put them in a Winnebago, and she would tour people through the Winnebago and then go on tours in the Winnebago so that people could see all of her gem sweaters. Hundreds of these grandma sweaters, gem sweaters. So then she gets her friends to help write a hip-hop song about gem sweaters. And then she makes this song called Gem Sweater, And it was a really big internet sensation for a little while.
Okay.
And then she made a couple albums, 2-3 albums are really good. She's based in Ames, Iowa.
I know exactly where that is.
Exactly.
Because I did that show in Jefferson, which is like the next town over. I know exactly where Ames is.
So
weird.
Leslie is amazing, and she's come out with all this music, and I love her, and I love all the music. And when AOL Instant Messenger was a thing, you could talk to Leslie on there because she's just on there like everybody else. And I remember I would talk to her and she'd be like, hi. And, it took her a little while because, she doesn't know everybody. And there were so many people reaching out to her that it was just sort of difficult to keep track.
Yeah.
But then I went to her shows. At one point, I carried her on stage. Like she was in a climbing harness.
Okay.
And there was a big 2x4, and me and another guy are holding the 2x4, and she's hanging from the 2x4. And she's sort of a bigger girl,
right?
And she would wear skin tight gold jumpsuits. This is her look.
Love it.
That she made with her mom,
right?
And she called herself a Midwest diva.
Oh my God, I love it.
And so I love everything about Leslie. So I ended up meeting her mom and her grandma. I met her brother. And then eventually I saw Leslie at one of the events and I said, oh man, that's so great. And she's like, yeah. And we were talking about one of her music videos. And she said, yeah, you know, like we have these grand ideas and we do them shittily. You know, like, and I was like, oh, okay, that's okay. You know, but she has these grand ideas, you know. And she still has grand ideas. They've changed a little bit, but they're still there.
Getting it done, though.
Getting it done, yeah. So, yeah.
Awesome. So, we're out of time.
Oh, can you believe it already? There's so much to talk about.
There's so much to talk about. I appreciate that you came, part of my weird little dream, which I love more with every single passing day. This has become my absolute favorite thing to do. But also for how hard you work to help other people achieve their dreams. Like, that's huge. And I don't know if people thank you enough. So on behalf of all those assholes who should be thanking you, I'm thanking you.
Oh, well, thank you. A lot of people do thank me, and I really appreciate it, you know. But thank you.
We appreciate you.
Yeah. Don't forget the dream that I have for you.
What's the dream that you have for me?
That documentary.
Oh, that's right. He wants me to do a documentary about the kids swapping. Oh.
So maybe. She goes twice a year, right?
Twice a year.
To Texas.
Or Missouri, which is halfway.
And drops off her children with her with your ex, right? Right. Because they're his children too. And then you come back.
Yeah.
And I asked her, sometimes I'll give other people like assignments which they don't have to do.
Although I have some footage. I've done some footage.
Yeah.
I just haven't put it together.
So I wonder about the trips home alone, because I think that they're lonely trips, but good trips, but interesting trips.
Yeah.
Whether you're driving there to drop them off or you're driving there to pick them up. And so I wonder about those trips.
Okay.
I think that's an excellent little documentary. I can't wait to see it.
I will put it together just for you. Anyway, thank you. Thank you guys for hanging out with us today, and keep on dreaming.